Okay. Hi, welcome. I'm Siobhan Sarna, and I am the founder of Chronic Condition Rescue. And part of my mission is to share information that I wish I had known growing up and that I certainly have been putting to use in my recent health challenges. I also started a wonderful community called SIBO SOS, and it is the #1 underlying cause of IBS. So if you have any bloating, constipation, diarrhea, alternating constipation, diarrhea, please join us. Find it all out about it at SIBOSOS.com, where you also can go to the shop and find tons of your favorite providers, meaning supplements and special companies that have given us exclusive discounts. Yeah, I love them for it. I love you all for being here. And I love this woman, Dr. Jocelyn Strand, who is the educational director of education for our lovely friends over at Biocidin. Rachel Fresco, Dr. Rachel Fresco is also a friend, and she's the founder of the company, and she created Biocidin, which has become it. Here's my bottle just to show you. Oh, hello. Like, I can't even tell you how many bottles I've this is the formulation that really changed the world for so many people. What happened was back in the day, Jocelyn can tell it better, but what happened back in the day is she had this, she was an herbalist, she was in herb school, she created this formulation. And back when stool testing was kind of just like in its youth, all these labs were getting the bacteria and culturing it, and then they would put different antibiotics and different formulations, and they would see how the bacteria and fungus and Lyme and spirochetes and parasites would respond. Well, lo and behold, Biocidin worked on it better than all of these other prescriptions. It was like cuckoo crazy. They reached out to Dr. Fresco and the company was born. Is that a good origin story recap?
It's a good synopsis. I like it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So I've been thrilled to know Rachel. She's somebody who I call a true friend. I love her very much, and I'm very inspired by her mission. Her mission is to heal the world, and that's no kidding. And she's doing a great job. Their team travels all over the place and does lectures like this. I mean, they're in I can't talk to people sometimes because they're at a convention in California, LA, around the world. You get the idea. Okay, today, Dr. Strand is going to be talking to us about the oral microbiome, the gut microbiome. She had some really graphic pictures. She removed them at my request because it was like cringe city. But I love biological dental health. I've done 2 summits on it. I, know that the body is connected to the mouth and it hasn't been separated, although Western medicine, which I am a fan of, but it gets it wrong sometimes, they've disconnected it. So today we're going to be pulling it all together: dental health, pulmonary health, gut health, microbiome perspective, and some very special formulations, including my other favorite toothpaste, Dentalcidin, from my bathroom, hot, live, and in person, and some other special things with a coupon that I have to work out. So we'll hopefully have it sorted by the end of this, but if not, be sure to check your email because it'll be there. And you can also go to SIBOSOS.com in the shop and find it there. With that being said, I'm handing things over to Dr. Strand, and yes, everyone's getting a replay. Hi.
Hi, Siobhan.
Hi, good to have you here.
Great to be here. Thanks so much for having me and for the warm welcome. And I just want to show everybody too, we have updated labels. I know I just shared my screen, so it's tiny, but we did a rebrand. So this is how the labels look now. They're beautiful. I think they really embody Rachel's energy now, which is a really cool thing. Yeah. Yep. That's the perfect, beautiful new label. So
yeah, gorgeous.
That's exciting. It's been a year now, April 1st. Last year that we did the rebrand, and that was quite a journey for us. So, okay, so you already set the stage a little bit, and I love that you talked about that we're not, we're more than just a mouth or a gut or skin or joints or a brain. We have there's whole body health, and the microbiome is something that spans all of those areas. It affects every part of our body, and I think we typically think of the microbiome as the gut, but what we're finding, we've been talking about this for a few years, but it's really now hitting when I'm at A4M or IFM, everybody's talking about the mouth and the importance of treating the mouth if you're working with the microbiome. So we can talk some about, that's what I'm going to talk about today, and not just the mouth brain axis, but the mouth gut axis as well. So Just to set the stage a little bit, we are talking about the microbiome, microbial cells on our body. There are about 100 trillion microbial cells, which I think really is kind of beyond our ability to comprehend. That's such a large number. But just to put it in perspective, there are 30 trillion human cells. So there are more cells, there are more microbial cells, over three times as many microbial cells as there are human cells on the body. So pretty interesting in terms of their impact. Of course, smaller in volume, in sheer volume, but larger in number. And microbial genes, about 2 million microbial genes. And that's important because all of those genes, the DNA that's inside those genes, interact in our bodies and change at an epigenetic level. So they work at the cellular level to change what our genes are doing. And our genes are 23,000, so less than 1% of what we have in terms of DNA information in our body is our own DNA. Pretty fascinating, right? So the largest percentage of the human microbiota, about 95%, resides in the GI tract. This is true for men. For women, 9% is in the vaginal canal, which I think is really interesting. Just again, another microbial or microbiome area that we need to be in tune with, make sure that we have health there. So 95% in the GI tract, and every human being has a unique microbiota composition, which could serve as a unique fingerprint for that individual. Because of their small size, they take up 1 to 3% of our body mass. So that's what I was talking about, is that their volume is not the same per cell, right? We have neurons that extend all the way from the brain down to the feet. Obviously, that cell, or for the spinal cord to the feet, that cell is going to be significantly larger. But it misrepresents the microbiome's tremendous power and potential. So just keep all of that in mind. So where the oral microbiome is concerned, we have 50 to 100 billion microorganisms just in the mouth. And there are many different micro niche inside the mouth. So we have the tongue, the cheeks, the teeth, the periodontal pocket, the palate. All of that will have a unique niche for different microorganisms. So why is that important? We have 700, an average of 700 different species of bacteria in the mouth, with a mean, so right in the middle would be 296 different species in the mouth. This is really fascinating to me, and maybe a little gross, is that 1 milliliter of saliva has 10 to the 8th microorganisms. So 10, let's see what that'd be, 10 billion microorganisms. And we swallow 1 liter or more each of saliva each day. So you can think about the importance. This is the first sort of cue that what is growing in our mouth will affect what's growing in our gastrointestinal tract, and that the two communicate back and forth. So if there is a pathogen growing in the mouth or a harmful organism growing in the mouth, we would expect that could translocate to the stomach, to the small intestine, where it could cause dysbiosis there. So what is oral dysbiosis? We all know there are beneficial microorganisms and there are opportunistic microorganisms, which are fine kind of hanging out basically as part of the global population until the time is right for them to replicate, and then they're there to sort of pounce on their opportunity. And so opportunists can become harmful organisms, and then we just have straight up harmful organisms that we don't do any good that we know of. The interesting thing about the mouth is that the teeth in particular are a non-shedding surface. So I would think about it like this: if you have biofilm is fuzzy teeth or sweater teeth, and so that's what we're going to talk about in a little bit more depth here, is oral biofilms. But those microorganisms, because the teeth aren't shedding, they're consistently there, like our skin is consistently shedding, the inside of our gut, the inside, even the mucosa inside the mouth and the sinuses, all of that is shedding. It's not to say we don't get biofilms there, but the ones on the teeth, that's a really important spot where the pits in the teeth, the surfaces on the teeth where we can't quite get the toothbrush. It's partly why flossing is so important. It's very important to make sure that we are addressing biofilms in the mouth. So plaque biofilm does not naturally shed. It becomes then a key driver in oral dysbiosis. It has to be mechanically removed, and or you can include antimicrobial or therapeutics. So I would think of things like, I wouldn't suggest things like, but I would think about some of the mouthwashes like chlorhexidine will wipe out all of the microorganisms in the mouth. It basically sterilizes the mouth. So that is something that would also have an impact potentially on those biofilms. The interesting thing is that nothing breaks down biofilms necessarily from a traditional perspective, but botanicals have the ability to do that. to address the biofilms to disrupt their production, and we'll get into that in more detail. I just love this picture. It's a little freaky, so let me know what you all think about it. But this is a toothbrush bristle, and these are bacterial biofilms. So what creates biofilms in the mouth? There are some main players. One is Streptococcus mutans, which is related to often to dental caries or cavities. So people who have overgrowth of Streptococcus mutans, we may start to see this overproduction of biofilms, and then also we'll start to see they change the pH in the mouth, and that can cause dental caries. We also commonly included in an oral biofilm would be Candida albicans or yeast, which is different from the Candida that everybody's going wild over in the public. So just so that you know, anything that I talk about today, it's not related to that. And then also Porphyromonas gingivalis is common in these oral biofilms, and we're going to get into that particular microorganism in more detail as well. So how many bristles on a single toothbrush? Does anyone want to guess? You can throw it in the chat if you want to. The average toothbrush, so you can imagine if this is one bristle, the average toothbrush has 2,500 of those. And so if this is why it's important to change out your toothbrush, make sure you're using a toothpaste that addresses biofilms.
Can we just pause for a second? What?
Sure.
What? What?
I love including this slide when I'm speaking live, because everybody groans and gasps at it. It's so gross.
I'm deeply disturbed. Okay.
It's why it's important to change out the head of your toothbrush often as well, right? I think it's every 3 months that we're supposed to do that.
Okay. So I spray mine with either Briotech or with ozone water, and I have to say that helps. But also it does depend on what toothpaste you guys are using. So squirt some biocidin on there, use your dental sidin, because it's going to not only help your mouth, obviously, but also your toothpaste. Sorry, I just had to have a moment of outrage. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Are you kidding? I love it. It's wonderful. Stay, please come on any time in here that you feel you have something to contribute. So I really like this slide. You can see it's sort of at a larger image and then closer up. And basically what I'd like to illustrate for everyone is that the reason that biofilms can be a problem, persistent biofilms in the mouth. Let me see, I'm going to try to turn on my laser pointer because I can, and it's kind of fun. So dental plaque as a biofilm. Here's a biofilm. We get a few cells down in between. This is the tooth and the gum. And what happens is that this is a harmful organism. Our immune system says, whoa, we got to manage this. So our immune system comes in here and it creates some, it's doing its work, right? It comes in with ways to kill the harmful organisms right in this area. The problem is that it's not selective for just the organism, and it's also ineffective against biofilms. And so what ends up happening is this sort of feed forward inflammation in this area. And here you can see that it's degraded down into loss of alveolar bone and a periodontal pocket. So anybody with oral health issues, you'll probably recognize that term, or you maybe have heard your dental hygienist call out your pocket probing depths to the dentist to chart. But we don't really we want this. This is a healthy right here, just a small pocket. We don't want this super deep pocket, because then we're going to have, as you can see on this larger slide, you'll get transfer of metabolites that are pro-inflammatory, and even translocation, which means movement from its first location to the second location. The same way we can get translocation of bacteria when you swallow them into the gut, you can also get it directly into the bloodstream. This is very closely associated periodontal disease with many, many different other health concerns. And I do want to take just a moment to say, I'm going to talk some about my clinical experience. You're going to hear that. I'm not making any claims on behalf of the company. I'll be really clear when I'm talking research, so that you'll know when I'm talking specifically about biocidin, but the rest of this is educational content. So just please understand that I'm not making claims when I talk about this. Okay, so what are biofilms? We've talked a little bit about it, but what's the purpose of a biofilm? So a biofilm is like an invisibility cloak. It's a survival mechanism for bacteria, yeast. There'll be fungal species, there'll be viruses inside a biofilm, and they create this extracellular matrix that is a very sticky substance that goes on the outside, and it shields them from our immune system from UV light, from anything, I guess, anything else that could damage them, whether it's if they're outside, it's bad weather. If they're in our mouth, it's it's movement, like the movement of the tongue, all of that. So the biofilm protects the microorganism. It's a survival mechanism. What's interesting is that 80% of infections, of chronic infection that we have, it will develop biofilms in as little as 2 weeks. So just imagine how important this is in addressing anything long-term. A bacteria that's behind a biofilm can resist up to 500 times an antibiotic concentration. So this is one of the main mechanisms of antibiotic resistance. And those biofilms are so sticky and that they are actually used as bioremediation in toxic waste sites. So they'll use something that highly proliferates in a biofilm, and it will soak up the toxicity in the environment. And that's important for you to know. I'll talk a little bit more about that at the very end of this conversation. But what's most important about that is that it's going to house lots of toxicity. It's going to house toxicity from the outside world, so petrochemicals and heavy metals, but also the things that we have inside our body or metabolites from those microorganisms. So it's really important part of a complete cleanse or cleaning out of the body for us to include biofilms and the microbiome as well. So this is a healthy, happy mouth right here. We want pink, firm gums, no bleeding when brushing, flossing, or during professional cleaning. So that's really important. And I think it's easy to lose sight of that. If you only floss once in a while and you get bleeding when you floss, you're not flossing often enough, because that is the problem, is that the sort of the proximity of blood flow to the tissue between the teeth. And there are microorganisms sitting right there. So you have to sort of condition those gums, get them really clean on a regular basis. We do not want the translocation of those microorganisms and everything that they're producing into the bloodstream. So no visible plaque or hard calculus, no cavities or restorations due to cavities. So obviously that ship has sailed for many people, but of course we can hopefully correct that to prevent cavities going forward with good oral hygiene and other supportive measures. Well lubricated oral tissues, clean tongue, pleasant breath. So that's what we would typically want to see in a mouth. I won't linger here too long, Siobhan. I put the less gross picture here, but I did want to point out, like, these are bleeding gums here, and this is plaque visible here, and even part of the, I don't know all the terminology because I'm not a dentist, but this is part of the underlying structure underneath the tooth because the gum has receded far enough. And I don't know the right words for it. So if someone wants to pop it into the chat, that would be very helpful. Thank you. If there are red puffy or smooth gums rather than that stippled kind of look, this is stippled up here. This is a healthy gum. These are red and puffy and smooth. Coated tongue, bad breath, visible caries. So again, that's cavities or fillings or crown. If babies or children are losing their teeth early because of decay, or dry mouth, those are all symptoms of oral dysbiosis. And then you want to pay attention as a practitioner, or if it's your own mouth, you want to sit up and take notice and take some action on that. So why is it important to take action on that? Inflammation is the root. This is a quote from Ellie Campbell. Inflammation is the root of all medical evil, and often the root is the roots of the teeth. This was a really, for me, was a light bulb that went on for me personally. When I was reading about lipopolysaccharides, I'm going to go off for just a second, and this is going to be kind of technical, but I'm going to make it as easy to understand as I can because it's really important. So lipopolysaccharides are a metabolite that's produced by gram-negative bacteria, which are really common. Those are really common players in things like SIBO. They're really common players in the mouth as well. So we have Porphyromonas gingivalis. I have a slide on that coming up. The gram-negative bacteria. When we have gram-negative bacteria, which we always have gram-negative bacteria in the gut. Hopefully it's in the largely contained in the large intestine, and there's not overgrowth in the small intestine, or dysbiosis, meaning that our gram-negative bacteria are out of balance with the gram-positive bacteria, yeast, and other elements in the gastrointestinal tract. And when that comes up in the gut, it's okay for a while, but then it starts to cause damage to the gastrointestinal lining. Our lipopolysaccharides will start to rise in the bloodstream the blood from the gut, but it goes straight to the liver from there. And so the liver cleanses it or clears it out as the top priority. LPS is so toxic, it is the single most potent immune stimulant that we know of. on the planet to the human immune system. So very, very important for us to be aware of its presence. So why, if we have 95% of what's going on in the gut from our microbiome, why is that smaller percent in the mouth so important? Well, you saw in the last picture how close that the blood flow is, and there is no first class clearance in the liver, right? If it's going directly into the mouth, it goes into systemic blood flow. It's close to the brain. It goes through the whole body before it gets recycled in through the liver, where it will get removed. And when it's out in the body, LPS creates a problem in terms of sort of an internal fire, smoldering fire. And so, and that is where we see this link to systemic conditions as well. So that was an aside, but an important way to set the stage for periodontal disease. So gingivitis and periodontitis, that is what periodontal disease is. Gingivitis is inflammation in the gums. Periodontitis is when we see, remember that picture with the close-up of the tooth where it gets down into the periodontal pocket and creates inflammation in the periodontal pocket and maybe in the root area as well, and bone loss, alveolar lobe bone loss as well. Periodontal disease is the most common inflammatory disease globally. It affects 50% of adults over 30 and 70% of those over 65 years old. So the gross picture that Siobhan was talking about was a picture of a mouth in an elderly person in a nursing home who clearly had not had his or her teeth cleaned for a long time, and the buildup of biofilms on their teeth. So use your imagination. It's pretty disturbing, that picture. But this is an easy area for us to make a big impact on supporting our own health and our patients' health without increasing supplement burden. We just start by brushing, and pretty incredible for us to be able to support health in that area. So clinically, the failure to treat periodontal disease leads to loss of teeth and increases the risk of a multitude of conditions. Central to periodontal disease is the persistent inflammation that we talked about, and as a result of oral dysbiosis and or infection, and subsequent production of mediators and irritating microbial metabolites. I'm just reading this because I actually wrote this too, and so I feel like I don't want to miss any part of it. But local irritation, so we know that, right? Here, localized irritation causes destruction to the connective tissue, ultimately alveolar bone loss, and finally we see progressive destruction of the jaw bone, the jaw and the teeth, and all of that. So let's talk about what happens then. Result of that, we have the translocation of the bacteria, of lipopolysaccharides and other metabolites that create that sort of slow burn in the body. And what do they have in what do all of these things have in common? They have inflammation as an underlying cause. So heart problems, obstructive sleep apnea, Alzheimer's, diabetes, COPD, adverse pregnancy outcomes, gingivitis, and stroke. All of these things have been related to oral dysbiosis. Again, just quick comment, I'm not making any claims. Look, I have this slide in here twice. I'm just going to go right over that. So this is a research article that just shows periodontal disease in the center, and you can see microbial dysbiosis, host, and combined with the host immune response. So we talked about that, how our body comes in, it's trying to do its work, but it's actually can be contributing to damage in the local area. And then environmental factors. So we'll talk a little bit more about this, but what can we do in terms of diet and lifestyle to support a healthy oral microbiome? And you can see gut dysbiosis, metabolic syndrome, cardiovascular issues, pulmonary issues, brain issues, joint issues, adverse pregnancy outcomes, diabetes, and liver issues. All of these things can be related to what's happening in the mouth. So pretty potent and powerful. So this is one of our pieces of educational literature at Biocidin Academy. So if you're a practitioner, please get a Biocidin Academy account. Continue to work with Siobhan.
Is she frozen, you guys? She's in a storm right now.
And in the actual
Hey, Jocelyn, at least for me, you froze. So you were saying if you are a practitioner, you can work with Siobhan.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm in a blizzard. I can't even see out my window right now. So it's 60, and so hopefully I'll hold steady, but I did just have your internet is unstable come up after you said that. So, okay, so if you're a practitioner, you'll have access to this educational resource. And we have these, thank you, Siobhan, and we have these, this available on our website. this is one example of some of the literature that we have that you are also welcome to share with your patients. But each of these, it has research in this document that we created. You'll see citations on each of these conditions as it relates to periodontal disease as well. We did talk about this a little bit, but this is research showing that people that brush after every meal, all they had to do was brush. So that's the mechanical removal of the biofilms from the teeth. And when they did that, rinsed and spit after every meal, they had a significant and dramatic drop in their stool levels of Candida albicans. So that's, again, a yeast species. So this is proof positive that's what's in your mouth. You're going to swallow it, and it will basically populate in the gastrointestinal tract. Not all the microorganisms that are in the mouth can even live in the gut, but the ones that can will do that. Here's this pretty picture again, but just reminder that it's related to cardiovascular health. Dysbiosis is, so we see bleeding gums and translocation going to leaky mouth. So we've all heard the term leaky gut before. Leaky mouth is sort of a newer term, and it is, again, you can see that in this particular picture, right? There's no question but that there's going to be some exchange of information between what's going on in that periodontal pocket and the bloodstream in this particular case. Bacteria with translocation can populate the arteries, even the coronary arteries, where it can cause plaque, systemic smoldering, and again, arterial plaque, and that again will contribute. So we see this feed-forward cycle. I did mention Porphyromonas gingivalis. This is a gram-negative bacteria, and it's commonly associated with periodontal disease, and it is connected in the medical literature to cardiovascular health, metabolic issues, pulmonary issues. So Siobhan, you wanted me to talk a little bit about this. I do find that all of this, I'm a total nerd also. So, I mean, I'm not calling you a nerd. I heard you call yourself a nerd earlier. But this is, I love to nerd out on some of this stuff, but I think this is so fascinating. So we know in recent years, in the last few years, that there was a very strong risk for poor outcomes and respiratory conditions if there was a poor microbiome, if there's dysbiosis. There is a microbiome in the lungs as well, which I was taught in medical school that there were no microorganisms in the lungs. So we never talked about the pulmonary microbiome. But what's interesting is that when we lay down and sleep at night, all of our reflexes are suppressed, including our cough reflex. So when we're up during the day, if we inhale a little bit of saliva, we cough it out right away. When we're laying down at night, that is suppressed. And so we do what's called micro inhalation of the saliva. So whatever is growing in your mouth is going to also populate your lungs, which is so fascinating to me. And it's designed like that. This isn't like, oh, darn it, right? This is optimize what's happening in the mouth, and you're also going to be optimizing what's happening in the lungs in terms of microbiome. So really interesting, again, sort of entryway into the microbiome for the whole body. So Porphyromonas gingivalis also connected to neurological conditions like Alzheimer's and depression. This is because of those. So I said leaky gut, I said leaky mouth. There's also such a thing as leaky brain, which means that damage to that blood-brain barrier, which is only a single layer. And the LPS, do you remember me talking about that lipopolysaccharides, when they flow out of the mouth into the circulation that goes near the brain, it can cause damage to that tissue. And then we can end up with leaky brain. And then we have things in the brain that we don't want to have in the brain. And it can cause this neuroexcitation. So anxiety, depression, and then neurodegeneration, things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all of these things are linked to Porphyromonas gingivalis. I want to just take a second to say, again, I'm making any claims about our products in this. This part is just purely educational. So poor pregnancy outcome as well. And then arthritis, rheumatoid arthritis is also linked to Porphyromonas gingivalis. So quick summary, good overall health is supported by good oral health. Hopefully I've gotten that point across here. Oral and gut microbiomes are inextricably linked. And I did show you research showing that you swallow what's in your mouth and it goes down to the gut. But we'll work with Dr. Ariana Ibrahimian, who's a dentist, and she's had really good clinical outcomes in patients who have persistently have harmful microorganisms in their mouth. We'll work with therapeutics there, but until gut is also addressed will not see the movements, won't see the needle move the way that she wants to see it moved. And that makes sense, right? So and anybody with reflux in particular, I would be very conscious of making sure that their gastrointestinal microbiome is also well supported, because it's coming right back up, right? So everything that's living down there is going to be entering back up into the mouth and translocating there. So there are therapeutics, deeper therapeutics for working in the gut as well, and we can talk about some of that. I'm happy to answer those questions at the end. Okay, addressing dysbiosis in the mouth can reduce whole body risk. And healing oral dysbiosis is about more than just brushing and flossing. You have to pay attention to biofilms and microorganisms as well. So how do we go about building and maintaining? This is Dr. Mark Hyman, but this is also Dr. Ariana Ibrahimian that I just mentioned. She's on a dentist on our scientific advisory board. And this is what she talks to her patients about, is weed, seed, and feed. So these are foods, a list that can harm the gut and oral health. I'm sure you all have this well in hand, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here, but it's here for you as a resource. And here are foods that gut and oral health.
Is she frozen again?
Green tea, I think most people are familiar with it, but this is not where I want to spend the rest of my time. Oh gosh, it looks like I might have gone out again.
Yeah, we lost you for a second. So can you just rewind your brain like 10 seconds?
10 seconds, let's see. I won't spend a whole lot of time on this particular. Will people have access to the slides?
Yes,
Siobhan?
they will. Thank you for your generous contribution.
Okay, great. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here. It's here for you as a resource. And I'm just guessing that many of the people here are already savvy on these things. So I'd rather talk a little bit more about the botanicals as therapeutics. So exercise and manage stress. This is hugely important. I mean, especially for people with periodontal disease and bone loss, stress elevations in cortisol will impact immune function and will decrease or increase bone loss. I would say decrease bone density. Making sure to manage stress by getting good sleep, addressing sleep apnea. Actually, and it's interesting because dysbiosis in the nasopharynx is also associated with sleep apnea. So that goes hand in hand as well. And just making sure that you include this, whether it's meditation, good sleep, eliminating or working on toxic relationships in your body, making sure that you set healthy boundaries with people. So working on your toxic exposure. So BPA, which is in almost every plastic. There are BPA-free plastics, but it's still very pervasive. Even on the receipts that you get handed at the store, there's BPA coating on those. So I try not to touch them if I can. I usually leave them on the counter and ask them to throw them away. Phthalates, mercury, fluoride, these are just some commonly known toxins that we can work with in our body to help optimize microbiome health. NSAIDs, which are non-steroidal anti-inflammatories like aspirin or ibuprofen, proton pump inhibitors, triclosan, and glyphosate. So these are just a few that we know have a direct impact on microbial health as well. So let's go into the power of botanicals. I'm super, I would say, evangelistic almost about botanicals. To me, I have a very strong reverence for botanicals. They have been on the planet way longer than we have. So everybody sit back and enjoy. I'm going to tell a little story. And I did write this. I'm going to read it off the slide, but it is something that I crafted myself. So at Biocide and Botanicals, we understand that microbes are not an enemy to be eliminated, but an ecology to be nourished. How do we do that? By working with the gift of botanicals. Plants have developed tools to grow and flourish under the same environmental stressors that we face. They have an innate capacity to protect themselves, producing antimicrobial compounds, antioxidants, biofilm disruptors, and immune modulators. Yep, plants have immune systems too. It's like I knew that, but I didn't put two and two together when I read about it. So take that and add also the synergy that happens when we use a formula. So each plant offers multiple activities. Then you layer them in a formula and synergy occurs. So we think about antimicrobial activity, then you're also breaking up the biofilms. If you have antimicrobial activity and you're not breaking up the biofilms, then it's like trying to climb a mountain. The biofilm just continues to recede from behind the biofilm. But when you combine those, and include antioxidant action, immunomodulation, the outcome is not additive but exponential. And I have seen that in my practice. And I would just say, if you've not tried this product, please give it a shot. As a practitioner, make sure it's in your arsenal as a practitioner, because the reason I'm here is because of what I witnessed in my practice. When I met Rachel, it was like meeting a rock star for the first time. I was so excited because of what I saw, how the product worked in my practice. So botanicals offer a graceful and mighty solution that cannot be duplicated, the power to achieve and maintain balance, the power to thrive. And I've watched this over and over again with the use of this product line. Let's talk a little bit about our dental line. So serious science behind every smile is our catchphrase. And we'll talk about how we got here. So botanicals and oral microbiome, and I think this was in 2018, perhaps, that Dr. John Rothschild, he's in Colorado, and he did a pilot research for us. And in that research, we had 9 participants. He did 2 different things. He did face contact microscopy, and he did a physical exam. He took crevicular fluid, which is the fluid in the periodontal tissues, down in the pocket, and he put it on a slide and he looked at it. And in 7 of those 9 participants, they had a significant reduction or total elimination of pathogens or harmful microorganisms when they were using the Biocidin LSF for 1 month. And we do have a hygienist that works often with us, Barbara Tritz, and she can watch it happen on a slide. The other thing that he noted in this pilot study was that there was a reduction in the pocket probing depth, and that was a very exciting outcome as well. And I just want to make sure and talk about this pilot research as well. So this was done using full genome sequencing. We worked with Sun Genomics on this. It's full genome sequencing is considered, sort of the gold standard. I mean, there's a lot of I would say controversy about that in our industry, but this is the one that we worked with. And we had 13 participants. 9 of those 13 actually, when they used so this is the Biocidin liquid on a stool sample. So I am making a stretch here to talk about when we're talking about the mouth. But what we saw in the stool was that with just the Biocidin liquid and the GI detox, and the GI detox is a binder, we don't expect it to have any significant antimicrobial activity. But it does, I mean, it might have some of the ingredients in it may have a small effect. But 69% of those participants actually had an increase in their beneficial microorganisms. 73% had an increase in Akkermansia, and I know that's one of Kieran Krishnan's, one of the things he talks about a lot is Akkermansia, some of the spore-forming microorganisms in Megaspore and actually in our Proflora as well will increase Akkermansia in research. Well, Biocidin did that on its own, and this is exciting because to me it shows that botanicals can nourish the body. It doesn't have the same effect as coming in and wiping out everything. It has the ability to help stabilize and nurture and support a healthy balance in the body.
Wait, it locked up. It doesn't go in and kill. We have questions about this. It doesn't go in and kill everything. What does it do?
So in the pilot research that we did, and I'm really sorry about
It's fine.
I mean, it's crazy weather here. So in the pilot research that we did, it increased beneficial microorganisms, including Akkermansia. When in 8 out of the 11 participants, Akkermansia actually went up using just the Biocidin liquid and the GI detox. And so it's just exciting for us to see. I will say, I expected to see that beneficials were not wiped out. I thought, well, maybe they'll go down a little bit. But I was pretty excited to see that in most people, it actually came up. And here we're looking at restoring balance, giving the body support it needs to find balance and heal itself. And this is what I love about naturopathic medicine, of course, in general, and I'm a naturopathic doctor, but also botanicals. So again, it's that these plants have to live with the same beneficial microorganisms. So that's at least the theory, is that they want to spare those beneficial microorganisms too, because they benefit from them as well. So very, very cool to see that come out in our literature, in our pilot research. So what exactly is Biocidin? Biocidin is 18 botanicals and essential oils. So 4 essential oils, the last 4 on the list here: tea tree, galbanum, lavender, and oregano oil. And the rest of these are herbal extracts, and they're each in such tiny amounts that there's not much in a single drop, which has activity. A single drop will have a significant activity in the mouth and in the gut, especially for people who have never worked with a microbiome. you're barely getting any of each thing, but the synergy is pretty magical. Magical is a medical term. That's how that's how I like to talk about it. So Biocidin is the flagship product. That's the one that Siobhan was talking about. It was developed in 1989. So we've got some chops in terms of time. We've been around for a long time. Then the liposomal is the one that Siobhan held up. So the liposomal solution will have direct penetration into deeper tissue, right? So that's the reason we went for liposome in the Biocidin. So same ingredients, but this one is liposomal, and then this is in a capsule, which by now, I'm sure you all understand, I would never prescribe the capsule unless I was maybe for travel, and that's it, because it maybe travels more easily. But you do not want to miss the oral microbiome. If you're working with the gut and with Biocidin, I would include the liquid so that you don't miss that oral microbiome. So this is the toothpaste that Siobhan showed you, and this is powered by Biocidin. So Biocidin is the active ingredient. It does have some additional nutrients for supporting gingival health, and it's very gentle, like a low. It's called an RDA, so it's not highly abrasive, so suitable for people with sensitive teeth. This is directly accesses oral biofilms. Is how I think about it, on the surfaces of the teeth. If you're looking to get deeper into the periodontal pocket, then I would include the oral rinse, which has the dental side, or the Biocidin LSF. So this has the liposomal Biocidin in it, and it also has CoQ10, some additional, it has quercetin, clove, and myrrh to support the mucosal health in the mouth as well. They're designed to be used together. So you can see that here's the oral healthcare system, and we're happy to share some literature with you on that.
Quick question here, with the liquid, do you swoosh it? Can you just go over that one more time? Do you put it on your toothbrush?
So this is actually an oral rinse. So you put two to three pumps in your mouth. Thank you for asking that question. And then swish with it, ideally for 2 minutes, which can be a tall order, I think, but just I would swish it, put on some makeup, or do your hair, or use the bathroom, whatever you need to do, take a shower, and then after 2 minutes you spit it out. And then, that's it. So you do that twice a day. And I think the cool thing is, I would like to give a challenge. I wish we could do a sample and have everybody do the biofilm challenge and see if their teeth feel less fuzzy the day that they start using this product. It's pretty interesting how quickly this works. So I'm hoping that this works. This is supposed to be a video, but it doesn't look like it's functioning. This was a real-time video, but I can describe what happens, but I think it's going to lose some of its power if I do it that way. The one last sort of clinical pro that I'd like to share with everyone is that the biofilms in the mouth are one spot that we get biofilms. We also get biofilms in the sinuses. In the middle ear is a common place to get a biofilm. So think of kids with chronic ear infections. That's typically Haemophilus influenza in a biofilm in the middle ear. And so these biofilms are all over the body. They sometimes have organisms hidden behind them that the immune system is not even aware of or working with. They have, again, I already talked about this, but some toxins. They have histamine located in them. And so do be careful if you're just starting out working with these products that break down biofilms. Be aware to start low and slow. It's a little easier when you're doing the toothpaste. You're not as likely to get like a Herxheimer or a die-off reaction. But if you start with the gut health, make sure that you're well trained on how to use the binder, on how to titrate slowly, so that you can escape some of what might be a kind of discomfort as you're ramping up. And it is that powerful, and it's powerful enough that I feel inclined to let everybody know. This is an important thing to know if you're going to start working with biofilms in your practice, whether it's on the teeth, in the periodontal pocket, in the gut, the sinuses, wherever, that you need to be ready to support yourself or your patients with some binder, broad spectrum binder, like our GI detox. And I didn't really talk about that one, but that's actually our best selling product right now. Is the oral stuff is starting to climb and is starting to take over. But the binding is a really important aspect of working with the microbiome as well. So I want to say thank you to Siobhan and for having us on. And I'm not sure yet what the status is on the code here. So I don't know. Do you want to pop on, Siobhan, and let us know? Let the people listening know.
I do not. So we have 15% off for you, and we are trying to get it on the whole cart. That might not happen, but right now that does work for biocidin. But we realize that we talked about dentalcidin so much, so we're trying to get it to work for dentalcidin. So basically, stand by if you don't mind. It's just one of those things. Mercury's going retrograde in 10 days, and it does start to storm. The miscommunication and glitches like that about a week to 10 days before. So it's official, it's started. So bear with us. We will send out the replay. We will send out the coupon code and what it's good for and when the coupon is going to be expiring. So we will get back to you ASAP. The replay will be out tonight. Okay, so I have lots of questions for you, Dr. Strand. That was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate it. Can you use these on your own without a practitioner? You always want to talk to your practitioner if you have like major questions, but they are, powerful, safe herbs. So use your best judgment. If in doubt, ask. But I certainly took it with, these are not prescriptions. Okay. So that's the thing about herbs. That's one of the things. There's a lot to talk about here. But one of the ones that I wanted to hit right away, first of all, that was fantastic. I just want to reiterate that. It was really, really informative. Thank you.
Thanks, Siobhan.
You did talk about chlorhexidine, that very antibiotic mouthwash. And the long-term use is, I was told not to use it long-term because it will turn your teeth yellow. So just FYI. But what are your thoughts on that? And then we're going to take on some more questions.
Yeah, I mean, so it does a full antibiotic wipeout of everything in the mouth. Of course, I don't ever find that optimal. So just that, but what's interesting is that we have beneficial microorganisms in the mouth, and some of them affect so just like Porphyromonas gingivalis can have sort of a negative effect, there are microorganisms that actually process nitrate, the conversion of nitrite to nitrate in the body, and that is where we produce our nitric oxide. So I don't know how much you've talked about nitric oxide on this platform.
A little bit, but go ahead and re-educate us.
Okay, so nitric oxide is a vasodilator. It does other things too, but it's a vasodilator, and that means that the blood vessels get larger and we get blood flow to areas like the brain. Of course, it's similar to what is the word that I'm after? I'm going to skip that thought.
Nitric oxide and nitrous oxide, are those the two you're talking about?
Well, so nitrogen or nitric oxide, or NO, is a really important part of we need good levels of it flowing in our body. And if you disrupt the microorganisms down in the rugae of the tongue, so they live way down in the tongue has all these little filaments that stick up, and right down inside there are these microorganisms, and if they're disrupted, and chlorhexidine is one of the things that disrupts them, and other things like scope and other antibiotic mouthwashes will actually kill those. And it's been shown that it increases blood pressure because of that. So in addition to causing white teeth, which is cosmetic and unpleasant, it also can have systemic effects of reducing blood flow to your brain. That wasn't the most fluid way for me to talk about it, but I would say that it's a really important piece, is that basically I think we're really in the infancy of understanding the importance of the oral microbiome, the GI, even the GI microbiome in terms of beneficials. When we wipe them out, we're kind of playing with fire, because we don't have a full understanding of all the ways in which these interactions happen. But that's just one way that we know that the oral rinses can be not the oral rinses, but the mouthwashes can be a real problem.
Okay, I'm not really sure what was just said there, so we need to just recap it. Give me a replay of what you meant, because I kind of lost track of what we were saying.
I'm going to try again.
What you just said? Yeah, just try again. Just simplify it a little bit.
There are microorganisms in the mouth that participate in basically in the blood flow in the rest of our body. Okay. So if those microorganisms are disrupted, and things like chlorhexidine and other mouthwashes that are antibiotic mouthwashes will kill those microorganisms, and have been associated with an increase in blood pressure, because it kills those microorganisms that live in the tongue, down deep in the tongue. And that's something that we're actually looking at, that we're hoping to do research on that in particular. The only thing we've been able to see so far is that it doesn't the use of the biocide in oral rinse does not increase, in pilot research, does not increase blood pressure. We haven't been able to actually evaluate the nitrogen levels in the body, or the nitric oxide in the body.
Okay.
So was
Guys,
that better?
yeah, that was great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So just to clarify, they have experience with it removing the bad bacteria, and that the good bacteria can be impacted, but overall it does repopulate very, very quickly. And even more, since those bad bacteria are often gatekeepers and bad players that impact the good bacteria, like a bully. So
Mhm.
this is a tried and true product and product line, and it's quite powerful. It's not a doctor's, you don't need a doctor to get it. It is not a medical warning, nor is this medical information. I'm getting some questions. So I'm like doing 1,000 disclaimers right now. Use common sense, stop using Colgate and all the stuff we grew up on for traditional toothpastes if you want to improve your oral microbiome, which we've just spent an hour talking about how it can impact your overall health. Boom. Okay.
Beautifully said.
Can it remove biofilms? Yes. That picture that you showed from Barbara Tritz, who is a biological oral hygienist who has been on our platform many times. We love her so much. And she showed that slide, which showed that the pretty much everything was wiped out, right? But remember, the good stuff can repopulate more easily, right? So I'm going to reiterate that because I think we have a little bit of dental panic going on. Sometimes I see that with SIBO panic, and I don't want you to overthink everything, right? Because then we get paralyzed. I had the same experience. I went to my biological dentist. I brushed with dental side first, hopped in, got in the chair. They did before they, cleaned my teeth, they took the scraping, they put it on the microscope, and lo and behold, they literally said, "What did you just brush your teeth with?" Oh my gosh, you have no spirochetes, you have no white blood cells, you have no disasters going on in here. What in the world? So I was able to share with them the dental side, which I was really, really happy about. So she talked more about sleep apnea, Zoya Marie, after you asked your question. One thing you want to be aware of is your palate, how wide your palate is, your airway health. Try to get a cone beam, which is that multi-image way of looking at not just your teeth and your bones and your jaw, but your airway. And there are special doctors that are experts in airway health, and dentists that are now working very, very carefully with sleep apnea. So they're like dentists that are also working with sleep apnea. So find some of those people.
Can I add something there?
Yes, please.
So Ariana Ibrahimian, who's the dentist that I keep talking about, she's an amazing person, by the way, and an excellent educator. But if you are a professional and you have an account with us, she did a webinar on airway and the microbiome, but also just airways in general. And she talks specifically about the palate and the broadening of the palate. And it's a really interesting case study that actually is her sister that she talks about. But she talks specifically about what you're saying, and she's just, I cannot say how highly enough I regard her education style. She's really great to listen to. So go have a listen there if you want to. That's all.
Okay. And you have to be registered as a practitioner or have an account? What?
Practitioner with an account with
Okay.
bioside.
Well,
I don't know what your population.
You're killing me, Jocelyn. You're killing me. Like they're not practitioners overall. So,
Okay.
but if you go and you experience the Dental Health Connection Summit or the Whole Body Dental Health Connection or web summit I just did, we did cover that in there. And maybe Clarissa can put the link into that. It is paid for at this point because the launch is over. Let me get some more questions. How do you prevent loss of teeth? Get that oral microbiome in great shape. Be sure to brush and floss and get to your good dentist because they are going to be expert in that. But you have to go to a dentist that is awake. Okay, so there are some organizations you can type in biological dentistry and you can find organizations and then look up the practitioners. And hopefully you'll find somewhere you're located. I've traveled 5 hours by car sometimes to go see a biological dentist because they are so specialized and totally worth it. Okay, for those who eat low, no sugar diets, low to no processed foods, how are they? Is it that these people keep getting dental cavities and other oral problems? And we do not see it in people living in the wild and tribes of other countries.
I mean, that's a really, really good question. And I would say, I would look at dysbiosis as a potential underlying cause. And that's a a perfect time to include working with the oral microbiome in that, they've already set the stage for it. I would look at biofilms, and I would look at Streptococcus mutans in particular. You see a biologic dentist, work with the oral microbiome and balancing the oral microbiome, and I would then take it from there. If that doesn't work, then you look at next steps as well. It is interesting, in the wild, there's a lot more fat consumption in our progenitors, and so there's a lot of speculation that consumption of higher fat can help with the beneficial microorganisms in the mouth, but I don't know enough about it to speak to it in more depth than that.
Okay, Cobelia, are there whole body health problems that make us hosts for the periodontal bacteria to flourish? Yes. My dentist can't figure out why I have periodontal disease because I take really good care of my teeth. Cobiella, I just want to say something because I've spent literally hundreds of hours talking about this with people just like you, and then I want to hear from Dr. Strand. If that doctor is a traditional doctor, the definition of I take really good care of my teeth could be very different, because if you were doing traditional dental products, that is not creating that healthy oral microbiome. So I really am interested in what that definition is for you. And I'm glad your dentist is curious and trying to find out why you have this. But there are so many things that you can do, including ozone water rinse, ozone oil toothbrushes. We just had a webinar with that yesterday. Dental Sidon, hello. Please try some of these products so that you can give your oral microbiome the help that it deserves. Look, they're connecting the oral microbiome to Alzheimer's, oral microbiome to heart disease. We saw this in the presentation as well. I will not be surprised if, hopefully sooner rather than later, they realize that the plaque in the brain for Alzheimer's patients started in the mouth with that bacteria. So this is cutting edge, and it's not mainstream. So I'm interested in what your dentist had to say. What do you think there?
I mean, I agree with everything that you said. I would say I just want to acknowledge how frustrating it is for people when they're doing everything that they know of that they can do. They got great oral hygiene and they still are getting progression of their symptoms. I mean, it's just extraordinarily frustrating, and it can be very discouraging. And I agree, working with, of course I have a bias. I just want to acknowledge that. But I would say for sure, if you're trying to get deeper, then you want liposomal. And you want to spend extra time with the rinse, right? So you would use the Dental Sidon LS, or whatever liposomal form, I have to be careful what I say, right? But I would use a liposomal form, do the rinse. What a liposome does, and I didn't really spend much time here, but I'll just very quickly talk about sort of the chemistry of the liposome, is that typically we would expect to see the biocidin liquid kind of stay on the surfaces of the teeth. It doesn't really penetrate, but a liposome is a chemical structure that crosses through the cell wall membrane and into the bloodstream. And so directly, where typically we have to swallow something, it goes down to the gut, we absorb it in the gut. When you have a liposome, it has direct transfer across the tissue into the bloodstream, lymphatics, into the periodontal pocket. I'm not making any claims, but I have had reports of resolution of root canal pain with the use of the Dental Sidon LS for people who have no other option, because it's working. We're getting activity up inside the tissue, right, away from the actual tooth up into the tissue. So the Dental Sidon LS, or the both parts of that system, would be well directed. I'll say it that way.
Okay. Yes, Chris Shade talks about this as far as liposomals. That's true. What is the timing of the binder use? People are asking about the biocidin, liposomal, and GI detox again, and how they're used.
So this is how I would write it on my treatment plan. I would say the biocidin or the LS, depending, or biocidin LSF, depending on which product is well directed for the patient. And then the GI detox would be 2 at bedtime. It has to be taken at least an hour away from everything else, because it will soak up everything else, including medications and supplements that you take near it. So it's very important to take it at least an hour away from everything else. The other thing, so I'd write 2 at bedtime, an hour away from everything else, or as needed for herxing or die-off reaction, right? So if you're just starting with a biocidin liquid, then you want to have a bottle of GI detox on hand. And if you take, I would typically have patients do 1 drop twice a day, half hour before breakfast and dinner. And somewhere around like day 4 or 5, often people would have like a headache or they get fatigue, or, these are actually good signs in terms of the therapeutic direction that we're heading, but it's uncomfortable. So that's when you can take a GI detox to mop up the damage that's being done, the sort of the smoldering heat that's being created by the immune system in response. That's how I think about it.
Okay. Okay. Let me just show you something. So somebody's asking about abfractions, which you already showed us a picture of. That's this. When you see the damage as the wedge or V shape is unrelated to cavities, bacteria, or infection. Well, you know what? In 2019, maybe some people thought that, but what causes abfractions? Let's see. It's stress and pressure applied to the teeth through biting, chewing, clenching teeth, and most commonly teeth grinding. So please get with your dentist and get some gear, that mouth gear. Also, it can, mouth guards. But it also can be a sign of parasites. That can be, a functional possibility of grinding, but there's a lot more to it than that. That jaw, that cranium, your facial structure, your whole setup here, your spine, when it's out, maybe it's a herniated disc, your jaw can suffer so much. And I've had migraines from this, so I really appreciate your asking. But remember, your teeth are not supposed to touch. So when your teeth touch, it's acting and waking up those nerves. So that can lead to a whole world of pain. But you've got to figure out a way to get your jaw so that they're not grinding. I'm begging you to pursue this because it is so detrimental. Dr. Strand?
I mean, I think you basically said it all. The one thing I would say that I would add is that, this was one of my favorite things in Ariana's webinar, but when you're resting your teeth, you're right, your teeth shouldn't be touching, but the tongue should be touching right behind the upper teeth. And that's a relaxed pose, and it will relax all of the muscles here as well. But interestingly, part of what happened in the last 3 years is that people wearing masks had to breathe through their mouth. And so that is part of that also contributed to according to the dentist that I've spoken to, contribute to dry mouth and dysbiosis, and then that can contribute to airway issues and the health of the surface of the teeth, including that abfraction. And thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
I cannot remember the name of it.
Mary, I'm taking Biocide and GI detox for H. pylori. I take the GI detox on an empty stomach when I get up, and I hope it isn't sweeping up my morning meal and vitamins with breakfast about an hour later when I take Biocidin. Can I take B vitamins 1 hour after GI detox and not have to sweep it out of my, and it won't sweep the B vitamins out of my system?
Mhm.
Maybe you can explain how it eliminates H. pylori without removing nutrients, if that is possible. Is that true?
I can't make any claims around H. pylori and the GI. So is this person using the GI detox and the Biocidin both?
Yes.
Okay. So I would attribute the activity with H. pylori more to the Biocidin than to the GI detox. In terms of its effect. And I would stay at least an hour away from your nutrients, your supplementation with the GI detox. The best time to take it would be at bedtime. If you're not taking any nighttime supplements, that's the best time to take it. We do detoxify. Most of our detoxification happens during the nighttime. It's then there in the gut to receive the bile that comes out as your body's detoxifying. And so that's how I always dosed it. And yeah, I think it makes the most sense to take it as far away from the nutrients that you are attached to as you can. But at least an hour. And I typically would wait that about an hour before I would take anything else.
Okay. Oh, we are 7 minutes over, you guys. I'm so sorry. I will not be able to get to everyone's questions, but I am so glad that you are here. Judy, do you believe that teeth cleaning can sometimes be too aggressive and cause issues? Probably. It depends. Are you highly inflamed? That can cause an injury, right? Like if you're bleeding a lot. You don't want gums that bleed, everybody. You don't want your gums to bleed. So, going easy is a good idea. Let's talk about oil pulling for a second. Are you a fan? Yes or no?
Me?
Yes, you.
I have no strong opinion about it.
Okay.
I have done it and I don't
yeah.
see any harm in doing it, but I prefer personally to combine the activities of using and you can combine the oral rinse with it, but I think you're getting the activity from the liposome. This is my humble opinion, so.
Right. Guys, I don't want you to not use an electric toothbrush because of EMFs. I don't want you to overthink mouth guards being acrylic. Try to make sure they don't have BPA, because this is all a bunch of trade-offs, everybody. It's not going to be always black and white. So you need to go inside, follow your intuition, take this good information and decide what's going to work for you. What's going to work for you right now might not work for you later. What worked for you before, isn't going to necessarily work right now. What's going to work for one person isn't going to work for another. Oh, it's a pain. I get it. Don't worry. I get it. That's why we do all of this. Not to overload you, but to inspire you, to give you hope, to know that there are answers and you have options. Sometimes too many choices is not a good thing. I get that, especially if you have brain fog and if you are in panic. However, take a breath. Let's all take a breath. We're breathing. Hello, breathing. It's such a nice thing. Drop your shoulders. Ooh, make a little face with your mouth and that jaw. Get it going. And just know that you have options. This is not a fortune. Okay. This is a very affordable toothpaste product. This is not affordable. Look, if this is back ordered, the Biocidin, get your, the dental Cidin, get your liposomal Biocidin with a new label and put it on your freaking toothbrush. I'm serious. Like, chill, just get it.
Or you can use the Biocidin liquid on a toothbrush.
Yes.
And this is, I think, $20 less
label
per bottle than the LSF is.
How much?
This is, I think it's about 60 retail.
Okay.
And the LSF is about 80 retail. Okay. But this is what's in the toothpaste, and that what you held up is what's in the oral rinse. So okay. I would put some of that in your mouth and swish with it, or put this on your toothpaste.
if the dental Cidin isn't there, if you can only get the capsules, put a pin in the capsule, put it on your toothbrush. We are going to send the link to purchase with the proper coupon code in the follow-up email. I'm sorry I don't have it right now for you, but look for that. And then
I did get a message from our sales director, and she said it looks good from the back end, and that she went and tested it and that it was working for her.
What? That's the thing. What was it working for? That was the issue.
For everything except for the kits.
Okay.
So what I have is 23SS-DENT-15. Is that what you had?
I can't remember anything anymore.
Okay, I'll put it in the chat. How about that?
Okay, I got it. 23SS-DENT, like dental 15. Okay,
yes.
Great. Thank you. And it's for everything but the kits. Okay. And then Clarissa, can you pop the link in there since she's so good. You're so good, Clarissa. God bless you. So there you go. Not the kits, so it's good for everything, but except for kits. Thank you. Okay. Coconut oil. I just want to talk to you about oil pulling for a second. Be sure Judy, not to spit your coconut oil into the toilet or the sink or the bathtub. Some people do oil pulling in the bath or shower because you can end up clogging up your pipes. So I've heard of this on more than one occasion. I want you to be very, very careful with that. Spit it into the garbage can, etc. Okay. I'm just going to try, you guys, if people have questions about timing and that kind of thing, Dr. Strand, how can they get support? Do you guys have a customer service? We
do have a customer service line. Yeah. And we can get you that will be mostly basic information, but I think it could be very helpful for just some basic information. And you can go to the website, and there's good information just on the website, including an FAQ. So that's biocidin.com.
Okay, cool. All right. Thank you, Dr. Strand. We will see you again very soon. We love you so much.
Thanks so much, Siobhan. It's always a pleasure. I always have a blast working with you.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay. Stay right there. I'm going to wrap this up, and then can you call me? I sent you my phone number.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Bye. Thanks all. Thanks, Facebook. Thanks, everyone. It was great to have you here. Clarissa, before we leave, I'm going to stop the recording. Thanks all. We'll see you at SIBOSOS.com. Be sure to go to the shop, because in the shop is all the products and the companies that I work with a special discount.